Guys in the doors, do you want to come and join us? Come. Perfect. So, and it's literally very informal. It was very successful when we did it in Calgary. So the people on this side, obviously you are pursuing master's degrees or PhD training. And, oh, perfect, the Litvinov lab. Why don't you take a seat up front? I'll pick on my lab members. That's perfect. Come have a seat here. So, and obviously the jobs in academia are very difficult. And I think as we'll pass the microphone, we'll ask every industry member to introduce themselves. And as an icebreaker, maybe tell us one fact that you wish you knew when you were going through your training that would have helped you to prepare you for the job that you're in now. Sort of like, well, I wish someone would have told me when I was doing, because many of you have graduate degrees or, of course, undergraduate training, et cetera. If just one fact that you think, would be very helpful to you if you knew that back then. And then we'll literally have open discussion because people here come with questions. Now we actually have quite a participation. I'm very happy about. And this is the time to, question your myths, get real information from the sources. And these are the leading companies in Canada with offices in Montreal who may be looking in a few years to hire someone with expertise in the SkIN research and perhaps establish mentorship relationships and maybe help guide you as to how to prepare yourself best to really land this coveted job in industry, whether it's MSL or sales and so on and so forth. So I'll start with Al. Al and I know each other for more than a decade now, for sure. So, and we'll just pass the microphone and I'll be walking around with the microphones. So there'll be a few microphones with, up front, and I'll be walking with the microphones for the questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Aldo Silva. Right now, I'm a representative with Bausch Health. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, did many roles, from brand manager, continuing health education manager, sales manager, even director of operations. And now I've been with Bausch for the last 2 years, 2 years almost. Lots of experience in sales and different roles. And like I said, so my background, I have bachelor degrees in biology. And one of the questions I knew, like I said, I didn't understand what was the pharmaceutical industry. So when I graduated, I worked in different fields. But when I got into the industry, in the interacting with customers like yourself and the physicians, I love it. And I've been doing it, like I said, it's now over 25 years. And it's a great opportunity for anyone who wants to come in, join the industry. And you know what? There's many roles that you could see. All these people, like I see ex-colleagues I work with in the past from different companies. We do move around sometimes, and opportunities are there. And I'm sure everyone, if you're interested, please ask us a question. So I'll pass it. Are there any questions or? Okay, thank you.
I don't know what to say after all. You say it all. So my name is Xavier Giner. I'm a MSL at Bausch Health. I'm working with Al. My role as MSL is basically being the scientific face of the company. So we have a lot of exchange with physician specialists that we call KOL, for key opinion leaders, because they are highly influential in the field. And the beauty of this kind of job is like it's unbranded, non-promotional, and it's only about science. So we are really here to support them in many ways, such as help them build clinical trials, or support them for presentation, or if they have any question scientifically that we can help. I have a memory back then when I was at Shire. I have a question from a physician. It was a kid who was born, we have like a issue with guts. So for ADHD medication, the medication couldn't be absorbed. So he was asking us if we knew there's something else in the literature that could help this kid to be treated. So that kind of support that we can do, so bring the paper and show them that there are some stuff existing. So, and if I wish I would knew something before starting in the pharma company, I think I would like to have a mentor earlier in the process. I think when you know someone who is in the field, they can give you really good feedback from everything, the position, the company, and be really good advice for everything for following your career path.
Hi, I'm Louise, and I am with UCB Canada. I'm a territory manager. I'm on the sales side, and I love being on the promotional side. And I love my MSL. My MSL is not just Xavier, but I love my MSL. But I think there's beauty in both roles, and there's challenges, and I need science also. I will exchange with you about what your patients can use now. Xavier will be about what they could perhaps use in the future and perhaps different uses that Health Canada hasn't approved yet. And I started off in the office. I was for 20 years in the office, and I've been on, maybe not 20, but anyway, I've been a rep since 2004. And a lot of people do the opposite, but I don't ever want to go back into an office again. I love, love, love being on the road. I've no idea what could have question I would have wanted to know before. I started in pharma as soon as I came out of school.
Thank you, Louise. I'm Danielle Raymond at Sun Pharma as a territory manager, with Sun relatively new in Canada since May, but I have a bachelor degree in biology and teaching, late 80s, so you can do the count about years experience. I love to be in the industry. I love dermatology also. Sales is great. I am working really close with my MSL and all the managers, and everybody's a team. We are a team at Sun Pharma, and right now I'm having a lot of challenges, and I really, really love dermatology. What I would have liked to know better when I start, theoric is something, but real life for caring for patients, it's all about for the patients. So if you have any questions, we get along. And thank you, Dr. Litinov, because I'm also really French speaking, and I really appreciate to be here with you today. And it's all together that we take care for the patient. Thank you.
Thank you. So my name is Sonia Montmayer. Super happy to have such a crowd. That's great. So I'm medical liaison. I'm based here in Montreal. I'm covering the Quebec and the Atlantic provinces. I've been in the industry for a while. I'm a PharmD by training. And I think now I know me much better now than when I was younger. And what I would say is when you pick up a company, because you are very bright, you know, you will have probably choices, different choices. There's a lot of opportunities at the moment, much more compared to when I started. Pick up a company with values that resonate with your values. When I was younger, I didn't look at that. I was just looking at the pipeline and things like that, you know. And now I think like the people I work with and the company values are much, much more important than when I started. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. It's very hard to follow. So this is Reza. Hi, everyone. I am an MD PhD by training. I did my PhD at UBC, a little bit of postdoc, cancer immunotherapy as well. So I am maybe a little bit from different background. Most of my professional work and life has been in academia. I'm recently, I would say, I'm recent and new to industry in a way. I've been working mostly in the clinical development teams as a consultant with majority of pharma, and this role that I have as a medical science liaison is my first official role with officially being with a pharma company. In terms of, so I'm not going to elaborate on the role and whatever, so feel free to reach out later. But one thing that I could say that maybe I would have known earlier was that if someone had told me that Tesla's share was going to skyrocket at 2011, that would have changed my life. But on a more serious side, coming from the academia, I had I'm going to say personally, I had this tainted image of industry, and I was trying to stay away from them. But I wish I kind of had started knowing and exploring kind of the type of work that I could have done. This MSL role is such different than what I have done in the past, being only at the scientific side, and I love kind of being being the face of the medical team, speaking with physicians and so on. So if that is part of you, knowing and talking to people, learning about their story, then this would be a joyful role, I would say.
Hi, my name is Etienne Patnaud, so working at Lilly with Riza and Sonia. So I have a pharmacology degree. I work in sales in Montreal, so basically for 13 years with Lilly. One thing I wanted to know at school is basically contacts to enter in pharma industry. So it is the perfect setup for making contacts with the different companies, because usually you need someone from that company to get hired. Basically, when I started, there was about 1,000 CV and one chosen.
Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom c'est Martin Anger. I'm an MSL at Sanofi Genzyme. So I won't talk about the role of MSL because I think it was well spoken of. Just to say a little bit about me, I have a PhD, so I've been to academia. I did 2 postdocs as well. And I have about 13 years of experience as an MSL or role. So I've been with Sanofi Genzyme for about 4 or 5 months. And things I wish I knew about before, I think I would have done a psychology degree. It's basically joking, but basically the role is really to have a relationship with doctors. It's, it's exchange of informations, but it's always good to have, you don't learn that at school, but it's really to establish those relationships that they're fruitful for you, but also for the HCP that you're talking to.
So, I'm Johan D'Souza. I'm offering something different. I'm the Vice President of Scientific Affairs at Leo Pharma Canada. So I cover about 5 departments, including medical affairs and then compliance, regulatory, and a bunch of others. Yeah, in terms of, I guess a few comments. One is, I think there's no, common pathway to industry. A lot of it is, you've heard the comments here from individuals. You also see the diversity in backgrounds. I think it's open to everybody, whether you have a science degree or not. I think you'll meet a lot of people that simply had a passion and drove their own pathway. Connections also are really important. The other thing also is look for volunteer programs or programs that exist. I volunteer my time to about 3 different schools. I'm in Ontario, but and this is really about just getting a sense of what industry is like. Particularly for me, I started off in academia. I went the professor route and then decided it wasn't actually a good fit for me. And I struggled actually taking that first step, simply because I was looking at my colleagues in academia to give me advice on industry. And as a result, you stumble a little bit. The big thing is if you can end up understanding how industry works, what the driving factors is, how it's different in academia, it helps a lot in terms of bridging that gap. But more importantly, if you end up taking that leap, you'll end up being quite successful. So the advice is network or actually look for programs because they'll be immensely helpful.
Yep. Thanks, Johan. So I'm Nelly Abdelmalak. I'm the MSL for Leo Pharma in Quebec. I've been for 6 years in the industry, on and off. So I have a PhD from McGill and a postdoc from McGill in oncology as well. My first job in the industry was in sales. And one thing I wish I knew, but then it's fine because there's not only one path that leads to where you're going to get. I didn't know that like a medical department existed in the industry, so I thought it's only about R&D and sales. So my first job was in sales, and I really, really liked it because like all the skills that you learn, you're going to use them at some point. So these are all the soft skills that you learn. So there's not one path, like just to echo what Johan said, and just connect, network, and this is one example. So you started doing it actually. Good job.
Thank you. So my name is Caitlin. I'm a medical advisor at Novartis Pharmaceuticals. I'm remotely based in Toronto, although our head office is here in Montreal. And I think my path might be more similar to yours. So I joined Novartis 4.5 years ago. Half a year ago, so 6 months ago, I became a medical advisor. Before that, for 4 years, I was in MSL. And before that, I was doing my PhD at McGill. So I jumped straight in about 4.5 years ago. Like Reza, I would like to know, I wish someone told me during my PhD to buy some Bitcoin. That would have been great. But also I think you've gotten a really good sort of diversity of opinions on things that you can do right now while you're developing to sort of set yourself up. The one thing I wish someone would have told me during my PhD, honestly, would have been to take
Like
a
a
breath,
discussion or
calm
something.
down, and that it's going
Yeah,
to
I
be
use
okay.
the direct Zoom
So
meeting.
there's a lot of rush. I was in a publisher parish lab. I won't say which one because we are in Montreal, but and there's a lot of pressure. And then you put a lot of pressure on yourselves as well to do well, to graduate fast, to figure out where you're going next. And honestly, I wish somebody who had done it would have sat me down, bought me a decaf coffee, and told me like it's gonna be okay. So that's my advice.
So my name is Lenka Ryhakova. I'm the medical advisor for Novartis Canada. I've been with Novartis now for over probably 10 years, but I've been in your shoes as well. I have a PhD from Sherbrooke University in pharmacology, and I have actually many years of
Like a
postdoctoral
discussion
study.
room.
I did
And
work
then show
in industry as a scientist as well, not necessarily in a SkIN, but here in Montreal at AstraZeneca, Perkin Elmer. And then I decided that, science is great, but applied science might be even more for me. So I moved back to Czech Republic, where I'm originally from, joined Novartis Canada, moved back to Canada as an MSL. And a few years ago, I believe probably 7 already, I became a medical advisor. And so one thing which I wish I knew at that time is probably that, you do not, none of your studies, none of the years in academia is wasted time. Everything what you learn, you will use. It's super important. The knowledge will never disappear. It's definitely every industry, every company needs your bright brains and your education. It's, you learn things which you don't think that you will use, but you will. So this is important. And another thing I find really important is that, you have options, right? And it's great that you are here, you're asking what you can do, how you can move your career or stay whatever you want to do in a basic science. It's good to ask questions, and we are here for that. So
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm working for Novartis as a sales representative in Montreal area. I'm having around 15 years of experience in this industry, and I have a completely different background. It's more about business, so I have a degree in business. So, and I really enjoy in this industry. And one thing I really learned, it's when you're curious and you want to put some effort, you can learn everything, if it's the scientific part or the business.
So we'll keep the microphone on that side. We'll have this microphone here, so the representative from Merck.
Yes, hello, sorry about the delay. My name is Caroline Rodier. I'm a MSL for Merck. I started as a sales rep, and in fact, it was a day like this one today. It was a Journée de la Recherche of the CHUM, and they convinced me to pursue my study. So I continue into a Master in Science in Public Health. So, and my advice to you would be to use any opportunity to present, it's really the scientific exchange that you will expand and take your critical appraisal as well all the time, and you'll be a great collaborator in science, and the industry is really open to new cohorts and doctoral and post fellows.
Excellent. So actually, people from industry, you're welcome to also ask questions for other people in industry, because this is sort of, I think this is an opportunity for growth and exchange for all of us. But we'll start with trainee. Is there, someone wants to, oh boy, okay, here we go. And I'll move around with the microphone here, and we have 2 microphones there.
Thanks, everyone. So my question is really basic and straightforward. So I guess it's mainly towards the people who switch from academia to industry. So first of all, what made you switch? And I'm somebody who likes to do research, but there's also a lot of pressure and the stress that is associated in this field. So when you compare the two areas, academia versus industry, do you think the industry offers more of a better quality of life while doing research and obviously more pay? Or
2 questions, so maybe someone can tackle, who would like to tackle? Okay, there we go. So what made you switch? And, and then maybe if there are other people who want to comment, and then we'll move on to the second question.
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, it was actually somehow it was a passion or a fit. And the difference is, when you look at academia, when you're doing research, a lot of the research is, it's directed, but it's actually almost for the pursuit of knowledge. Whereas industry, it's very directional. So ultimately, you have this sort of endpoint in mind. So it's improving patient care in some aspect, or it's improving diagnostics, or it's somehow accelerating the healthcare system. So the big difference between the two, I would say, is really that. And for me, it was more of that strategic mindset of thinking 10, 12 steps ahead, and what does that ultimately mean to an individual, to a patient. As far as the quality of life question, it's actually what you make of it. So there's jobs in industry that you'll have an amazing quality of life. There'll also be jobs that you're going to want to pull your hair out. A lot of it is simply the environment you're in, who your manager is, and then where the company is from a life cycle standpoint. It's the same in academia. There's some labs that are phenomenal from a quality of life standpoint, work-life balance, and then there are other ones where you end up feeling a lot of stress. So I think that the aim is, if you're interested in industry, do research about how industry works, what the overall goals are, because at least for me, when I entered, I made the switch. The biggest concern was, and I had a lot of my colleagues at that point saying, how could you take a risk? There's no job stability, job security at all. And what I found in industry is actually quite the opposite. It's very stable, and the other aspect is a lot of it is dependent on you driving your own career and making connections. So I think that's the other important part.
Oh, okay, go ahead. And then here, right?
I just wanted to make one additional comment. I'm looking at the amount of women in this room. And one thing that that I learned during my PhD is, 1% of PhD graduates will get a tenure track position at a university. And for women, it's lower than 1%. So when you're thinking about your career in academia and where you can go versus what the other options are available to you, that was really one of those things that kind of clicked it for me. And as well, in my field of study, which was in infectious disease, actually, the grants that CIHR was giving, or the types of projects that they were rewarding, were very high level, I hate to say it, but ivory tower research that wouldn't really affect people's everyday lives. And they weren't funding projects from I was working in HIV, so at the time they were really just funding cure research. And as a person who was working on a different type of project and seeing the suffering, even that people in Canada in poor communities have with HIV infection and spread, and the fact that we were putting millions of dollars towards a theoretical goal versus going to work for pharma, where you would actually be able to affect real change and help people's lives every day, or work towards that every day, that was a big deciding factor for me, those two things. And I'm sorry, what's your name? I missed it. Johan, what Johan said about quality of life is exactly correct. So I couldn't have said it better. It's really, just like your lab, it's really dependent on who's around you and who you're working with and what you're working on.
Oh, you have a comment?
Yeah, just to build on what was said, there's very few people that we see, once you come into the industry, there's very few people who go back to where they were before. And that's probably a good testimony to see, wow, talk about quality of life, why the people are staying in this. And rest assured, what's the challenge you guys are going to face is to get into the industry. Get in, my suggestion to you, get in at, probably going again, not get the ideal job the first time. Don't worry, once you're there, you could build up. All of us, we start at the bottom, and everyone, like you look at every major CEO of the company in Canada, they all start at the bottom. They probably start in reps or as a medical person, and they went up. And CEO, if you're willing to do that, you know what, just get in and then pursue it. If you know anybody who has a contact, like some people mentioned, contacts is everything. Once you get in, then you'll be able to build a filter. And like I said, all of us, like these are all people who have different backgrounds. Very few people will go back.
Thank you. So I have two questions. Like one is about like which kind of.
Can we do one and then we'll come back to you? Just one question.
Okay, one question. So the more important one is how to choose. So before hiring people as a research scientist or as a consultant, which kind of skills do you want it to be developed like during the training?
Skills, critical skills from people with graduate degrees.
Communication, certainly. Back to critical appraisal for sure. Willingness to innovate, to develop yourself, because back to the previous question, the opportunities are immense. It's very true. Clinical research, through medical services, medical liaison, like we're doing a bit more customer facing, if I can say, but you can be flexible as well because the opportunities will be immense.
If I can continue on that, and I agree totally with communication, what I think is important, I think as a grad student, is that everybody's going to publish something, everybody's going to do research, everybody is going to learn skills that are common to all the other graduates. But I think it's important is to get those extracurricular skills. Do the I don't know a workshop on something, a journal club, organize an event. So be that person so that you can put on your CV that you've done other things than writing papers and doing research. And I think that developing those skills are not related at all with your degree, but at least you can show that you can grow into something else, into somebody else.
There's only something I want to add. It's true that we have a lot of sales or medical people here, but the pharma industry is way larger than that. In the past, I've worked in pharmacovigilance, in regulatory affairs, some people working in quality assurance. There's a lot of stuff that can match your skill set. So it's not only about, it's true that your position is mainly focused on communication, but there's also other kind of, I would say, position you can apply. And when you're within a company, you can grow and you can ask to be mentor and grow in the future position you're looking for. It's often rare that you can, what we call, have some type of promotion, but you can have what we call a transversal transition or position, and that's where you can grow. Even in medical, sometimes, even if you're working in a specific field, like MSL in dermatology, you may have one and be a medical advisor in neurology, so that the way you can jump and go up in the future.
I'm going to add a very quick comment on the communication aspect that was spoken. So I want to highlight two parts of the communication. The first part that I think was elaborated on was personal communication, being a human, being able to connect and talk to people. So the other aspect that I also want to highlight is being able to communicate your science to others. So my eye-opening was I competed in the 3-minute thesis competition. It was the challenge of my life to be able to explain my thesis in 3 minutes, one slide, not to water down what I'm doing and wasting 5 years of my life on something that I can't explain in plain language, and at the same time explain the importance of it while not speaking of jargons and so on and so forth. So competitions like this speaks again to the same types of activities. So that opens up, if you're able to explain why you're spending 5 years of your time, your life on one project or whatever, that would definitely help you later when you're talking to people, when you're applying to a job, when you're writing a proposal or grant or whatever, that would go a long way.
So communication and, oh, sure.
Yeah, I just want to finish on one super important thing.
thing is cross-functional teamwork, because you will not be able, like in a lab, to work in isolation. You will need to work, whatever is medical information, sales, medical science liaison, pharmacovigilance, or whatever, you will be working with many different cross-functional teams. And so communication, external communication with customers is important, but internal communication is really key. And so that is something you will need to be good at and to be prepared for, especially in the future. Patient reimbursement also. So all those, you know, all the different cross-functional teams, you will be part of that. So you need to think about that also when you are moving to the industry.
Next question, please.
Hi, this is Muthu, and I'm going to finish my PhD soon. So my question is, how easy or difficult is it for a fresh grad to crack the job market, like in industry? Like, do I have to have a postdoc experience, or as a PhD, I'm still, you know, fit to apply for an MSL or a scientific advisor or a sales rep positions?
Takers?
You're going to face competition, plain and simple. You know, right now, I think when I entered the industry to even now, I would say the number of applicants for an MSL position now, I think the last time I posted it, I think I got something around 356 for one position. And that's not to say all of them are quality applicants. You know, the question is, when I look at those CVs, a lot of it is what stands out. And what people are looking for is, you know, it's kind of de-risking. So think of it that way. So you're taking a chance on somebody who's brand new or somebody has 10 years of experience. The question the hiring manager is going to say is, how much confidence do I have in you being able to do the job and you to fit in with the company culture? So a lot of, I think, what you're hearing about networking helps you understand the role you're getting and helps understand even the 3-minute thesis idea is you'll be able to demonstrate skills that are going to help you accelerate and do the job. So a lot of what you should be doing is try to figure out, how do I actually, what job do you want? So if it's a sales rep, if it's a bench position in industry, if it's, you know, a regulatory position, look at the actual tasks and the skills and look at your experience so far, and don't discount research, because there's a lot of things you do in research that are applicable. You know, you go to conferences like this, you're presenting your research to people, you know, who are very experienced in terms of science and people who are, you know, just starting off. That's still a huge breadth in terms of how you're qualifying your communication skills. So think about the tasks and really figure out, okay, what of these do I actually accelerate at? Which ones are a bit of a gap? And then try to figure out projects or things that you can either, you know, address that gap or minimize it, or, you know, figure out from a job experience how you can quickly get that. Because from a hiring standpoint, at least for me, I qualify somebody really based on their skill set and not necessarily experience, because I've had kind of both. People who have been experienced that, yeah, for some reason they just aren't a great fit, and then vice versa. People with zero experience end up being one of my best employees. So, yeah.
Another thing which I wanted to add, you know, if you get to the interview process, like, be authentic, be there, you know, be yourself. Like, there's, you know, there's space for everybody, and it's gonna show that, you know, this is who you are. I think that it's about connection, and I think Sonia mentioned about the value of the company. It reflects in the people who they are, you know, who are in the company and who they are looking for. So I think that, you know, showing your true yourself, the way you think, it's gonna be the best for you.
Yes, and one thing I would like to add, because I know like many universities, especially McGill, they have those like the CAPS, I think it's still there, the career, what is it called? Career and Placement Center. So they help actually students build their CVs, do mock interviews. They tell you like tips about networking. So at least for me, it worked. So I knew halfway through my PhD that I love research, but I don't want to stay in academia for so many reasons that I could mention later if you want. But so I started getting my tools ready. the CV, the mock interviews, the networking. So these, start preparing yourself early on, or start. Now is a good time.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for your time today. I'm wondering if you could speculate on some of the opportunities, but also challenges of working in industry, specifically in the derm space, as opposed to, say, another field of medicine. And that could be like the product or the regulatory environment or anything that's unique to the patient population.
Industry working in derm, like
There are not enough derms. The HCP base is very small. It makes us get to know our clients rapidly, but it is very competitive. So many industries involved. And as you said, dermatologists have limited number of dermatologists and busy dermatologists, you know. So that's, but in immunology in general, rheumatology is the same. Rheumatology, dermatology, I would say that it is very competitive, and so that's specific to dermatology. The thing is, because I worked in many different disease areas, what I really love is that we have a lot of investigators, and that's unique. You go in psychiatry, rheumatology, even cardiology, you don't have as many as investigators, and there are international speakers as well. So that's really, really great if you have the opportunity to work with them.
anybody here would find, gosh, dermatology is so tough if I could switch to a different field. And no.
Okay, thank you. I've been in diabetes, cardiology, all other therapeutic area, and I can say my heart as a sales territory manager, it keep going with dermatology. This is about research, as you said, and also meeting the patient, because it's a huge need in this area, and it will continue to grow on with research. And I can tell you it's a super great opportunity to be in dermatology, the medical side, rheumatology, or cosmetic, and you have all that your passion and your curiosity and all experience that you will find it in yourself, in you, and this is something that you choose for the right reason, or one right reason, and you will go on with your career. And so far you have this experience and you would like to share to maybe treat patients or go stay in research, but the pharmaceutical industry offers so bright spectrum, and dermatology right now is very interesting and important.
And they are nice, right?
We have a great lifestyle. I mean, to testament to that, the JAD impact factor went from 5 to like 11, right? So because of the growth of the field. Someone had a question.
Hi, everyone. I understand that everyone has a different background and is in a different position in the industry. I'm finishing my master's soon, and I have an MD as well. If I would pursue the industry, what is the best position to apply for?
Is your MD from Canada?
No, international.
International MD. Okay, so international AD and masters, what's the best way to get in?
I don't know that there's a best way to get in, honestly. Your qualifications will be great, and that's fantastic, and that opens up that opens up sales, medical, pharmacovigilance, lots of things to you. It's really about you. What do you want to do? What do you have an aptitude for? What do you like? This is going to be your life. And so someone else suggested, and I apologize, I forget who it was, to really go and look at what the role descriptions, what the responsibilities, what you will be doing every day, and see how that aligns with your own values and the things that you like to do. And that's the great thing about being a graduate of a graduate program, is you do have these options available to you. And it's as much as it's, maybe you want to narrow it down and focus yourself, you really have all these options open to you. And so I view it in a positive way like that.
You said it all.
And you can think about marketing too. I mean, we're talking about medical liaison or sales, but you have also marketing and you have providers. I think to start, I worked as a provider for 2 years and I learned, it was such great learning. And you also learn about the other companies, because I was working with many different industries. So I don't know why MSL role is so attractive. It's tough, because it's a combination of science, but also, as someone said, a lot of communications and relationships. And you are in the field, like you have to travel, carry your bag, and so it's not so sexy as it looks like. So you have many other opportunities. Don't hesitate to try many different things and to open your eyes, I would say.
One thing I'll just stress is just understand why you're applying for the position and why you want it. One thing you may run into, although I think the industry is changing, is before there was a period where if you had an MD or an advanced degree, people would ask you if you weren't applying on the medical side, they were really saying, why take a position, or maybe you might be overqualified. I think now the roles in industry have evolved so much that that's not really the case, but you will have to answer that question in an interview. So why go for this position? Why do you want it? So that speaks to, to Caitlin's point, which was understand what the role is and how it's a good fit for you.
Hello, I'm Amani and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at McGill University. So we all know that companies usually receive hundreds and thousands of CVs. So, and the human resources, or I don't know, they just screen or scan the CVs. So what skills exactly they look for? Like what should we focus on when we prepare our CV? Thank you.
Well, what suggestions, like every company, they have their vision. So I really suggest you go into the website, look at their vision, and when you build your interview questions and so on, think about answering those questions based on that vision, because I'm going to put you ahead of the competition. And try to get try to get in a position that you're going to like, because once you're in, I mean, that's not going to might not be your ideal position, but once you're there, you show them what you're able to accomplish, then you'll be able to move around. Just keep that in mind, because sometimes you might say, this might not be my right job. You get into the pharmacy. And then if you're a person, like I say, if you don't like dealing with people, well, don't go into sales or marketing, because you're going to be dealing with people. If you like to deal with people, then that could be a good position. If you like to be alone, then you can go, like I said, market access, pharmacovigilance, and so on. You're going to be mostly alone.
And do a personalized cover letter. Really important. A personalized cover letter. It's really important. So why your specific skill set will match with this position. That really makes the difference.
And obviously you need to tailor your CV to the job you're applying, because nobody cares really if you played with mice for a marketing job, for example. So you really, and he's looking at hundreds of CVs probably, so your CV needs to stand out. And experience is one thing, but I truly believe in skills. So again, if you have extracurricular skills that it's gonna, you can highlight that would be a fit for the job. Again, organizing stuff like a meeting like this. I did that during my postdoc years. We had what we called a career day. And hundreds of students were there, and it's just, you need to organize, you need to get speakers, so you need to show that you can outgrow the role you're in now, I think.
Also, obviously, if you're referred by someone, you're going on the top of the pile. So be creative. I've got calls from someone that went to his family doctor office asking for, I want to speak with reps, or I want to speak with someone in the industry. So we've met, and then yes, I did the referral. So, and also don't forget when you get interviewed, there will be a question about why you want to enter that company specifically. And usually people are not prepared. They just want to go somewhere.
Hi, I'm Gaurav. I'm a researcher and I'm working in the immunodermatology field. And my question is related to something that we already discussed. But in short, is a PhD or a postdoc necessary for getting into a position like an MSL or something related to that? Because personally speaking, I have a double master's in biotechnology and neuroscience and 5 years of experience. Is there something that I can add on to specifically tailoring into fields that I like, or is it a threshold that someone needs to meet?
There isn't actually a threshold. There was a point in the industry where MSL roles were going to PhDs. I think that's gone away now. Again, it comes down to the comment that you've heard just on the last question, which was, how do you actually get noticed? So a lot of it is, how does your skill set match the job? I don't think a PhD is required for a medical position at all. I don't think, actually, and even on my team now, and even at past companies, I've had everything from people with zero experience, zero graduate work, to salespeople, to people there was actually one person who ended up zero pharma experience and actually had a car sales background. It's really about the fit, and it's really about their ability to do the job. Obviously, if you have experience or you have a PhD, that gives you a different skill set, but it comes down to getting noticed and then being able to convince whoever the hiring manager is that you're capable of doing the job. So we kind of look at it as a step by step. So if you have a double master's, what's the advantage over a PhD? What's the advantage over a nurse, a pharmacist, or how do you get noticed? So look at your skill set and look at, I would just kind of position yourself as, why are you the ideal fit for this job? And you want to make it clear to the hiring manager, so at least when they're skimming your resume, they're like, okay, it's worth an initial conversation. And then you have the door open to really actually show why you've done your research in the company, you're motivated, and you're going to be a great fit for the manager and within the team.
If you have a background in neuroscience and in dermatology, we are always interested to look at also your network. So if you have a network of, let's say, researchers, physicians, in neuroscience and one in dermatology, it could also help. Especially when now we are back to in person, but in the virtual world, it was really key to have people that already have an established network. So it could be something you could also use.
I just wanted to add, the question in regards to what kind of qualification you need for which type of job. Depends on a company too, right? So for example, at Novartis, if you want to be a medical advisor, you need to have a PhD. This is a kind of a prerequisite. So there is this kind of a education equal to a job opportunity in some of the roles.
There's just one thing I wanted to add. If you see, a job opening, a job opportunity, and it requires this, and that, even if you don't have it all, apply still. I think that's important, because sometimes we get discouraged by, oh no, I don't have this. Oh no, I don't have that. But I would say it's the word in French is ensemble. It's the package. I think that's interesting. And if you can highlight the things that fit the description of the job and the task you need to do, I think that's important. So, but don't feel like, oh, I don't have this, so I cannot apply. I mean, that's the ideal candidate when you have, you make a job posting, but there's no ideal candidates. So,
It's the wish list. It's not necessarily the list of requirements. So, and don't devalue the experiences that you do have just because you might not have specific industry experience. And someone else mentioned it, like organizing career days, et cetera, et cetera. That is valuable experience, and it's translational. Is that the right word? Anyway, but yeah, so don't devalue yourselves and don't get discouraged by the wish list.
Hello, I'm Tenzin. I am a postdoc fellow at McGill. I have a question regarding the MSIL position. In most of the MSIL position, they ask for at least 1 or 2 years of experience. And those without any experience, how to get into that field?
Great question.
As someone who did that fairly recently, and again, I'd say that's the wish list, right? They say they want experience, but what have you done in your postdoc, your PhD, your career thus far in academics that can translate? So what communication opportunities can you highlight? Conference presentations, 3-minute thesis, anything like that? Because the MSL role is hugely based on communication and being able to effectively communicate, as we've already talked about. And really, yeah, I think that's really, really key. I don't know, and networking, other things that people, I'm trying to not repeat what other people have said. So it comes down to networking and selling yourself.
Yes. At Merck, we do require a PhD for MSL position. And one thing you have to think in mind as well is that you won't go in maybe in dermatology for 15 years. There's a lot of turnaround. There's a lot of change of division, and you may be, again, need to be very flexible. So it's extremely dynamic.
And one thing I wanted to add is it's not necessary to have the experience. Caitlin, I was there when she was interviewing and we were jumping. She came from McGill, finished her PhD. It wasn't even finished, right? When you started. Finishing her PhD, and we knew that she's the person we want to hire. So don't get discouraged. It might be tough, but it's about a fit. It's about, how you can imagine working with the person who is in front of you. And I think that that's the most important.
And again, I'm repeating myself. It's not about, your experience really. It's about the skill set that you have, and why they require 1 or 2 years. It's because you're facing physicians, HCPs, and basically you've done the role for 1 or 2 years, and this requires certain tasks, certain skills that you need to have. But if you acquire those skills somewhere else, it applies. So, and I think somebody mentioned it, but I think teamwork also is very important. Even though it's a field-based and you're usually home office, I mean, you work within a team, so we need to be able to work cross-functionally with other departments, with even other divisions. So I think it's important to show that as well. So, get out of the lab, do something else. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, and it's very important, once you get an interview, sell yourself. Okay. Don't go in like, I'm no experience, like a shy person, because you're not going to get the job. Just come in with confidence, believe it. And if the persons are you going to say, I could hire this person, because they don't hire you they're going to hire you for one position, but they're thinking, what is this person going to be able to do for my company in 5 and 10 years? Come in with that confidence, sell yourself, and you can nail the job. But there'll be a lot of competition. That's why it's the ones who, your skills on the CV will allow you to get the interview, but then the interview is going to make the difference, you going the right person or somebody else. So if you don't sell yourself, you're not going to get it. Sell yourself. Be confident. Like coming in, like I want this job, and show it that you want the job.
I would like to add, be assertive, but stay yourself. You have so great experience in your area, research, and it will show when you will be interviewed. Also go and see where you applied, the mission, and everything is really posted really nicely, and you will get a lot of information, and do your research and stay yourself because you're amazing. And if you want to come in the industry, you have your place, and be yourself. This is my word I would say to you. And assertive, you're passionate, and you will share that experience. That sometimes the right 1-2 years experience is just to see and to ask you what you will bring with the industry or the company that you will apply. But don't restrain yourself about 1 year, 2 years experience. You've got that already.
I have a question that I'm sure everybody wants to ask. For cold calling, all these people are interested. Is there any opportunities within the group here for mentorship, for to do a little bit of a follow-up, maybe get a little bit of experience to get a feel for what it is? Are you available, or do your company run some sort of summer internship or experience that people can approach you right now or this year?
Right away at Sun Pharma, we're relatively new here in Canada. I will ask, and if there's an opportunity for this development, I'll be more than happy to share with you. With Sun, I'm the territory manager, Quebec and Atlantic, and I know we will develop by the years. We are already in the United States and already in Europe and some countries. So this is a great company, and we are developing. So this is an opportunity. We stay close. We go on the site with Sun Pharma, and we'll know more about new development, dermatology, oncology. So I am not the manager, and but as a territory manager, what I can transfer from today is you're willing to come in the industry, and if there's any mentorat, sponsorship or something like that, you will get to know. And we're very implicated with LinkedIn, le réseau professionnel, professional networking. We are there, Sun Pharma. You see post and go and come with LinkedIn also.
Personally,
Yes. Well, get to know. This is an opportunity. Right?
so again, I'm new. I'm rather new at Sanofi Genzyme. I've been there for 4 months, but I know we have an internal thing with, I think, Farm D students. We have like an internship, and I received an email today saying that to start like looking for 2022, 2023 students. So.
Yeah, there's a few programs even at Leo. So outside of the company, I also do one-on-one mentorship. I will just preface it with it's a fair bit of work on your end. Because dedicating my time, I require a lot, and it's what I find is it gives you a good sense of understanding what it means for an industry, but a lot of the work actually is really training you on how to understand jobs, understand your skill sets. It's really identifying yourself in the process, because that'll end up, I think, allowing you to succeed from an industry standpoint. The other thing also is we've got a few programs now, internships, summer internships. A lot of companies also do this. So I would just even like take a look at most companies, look at the career section, or even just reach out to the HR person. If they don't have a program, it's pretty easy to set up because they have these temporary workers or internship positions. So a lot of times, so for example, when I was actually at Sanofi, I had an individual that reached out, and we didn't have a program. This was an unpaid internship for about 10 weeks. We started the program. Just because that individual made themselves available, made a compelling argument, and it was fairly easy to do. It was one email to HR, and they were like, "Okay, we'll figure this out," and you're able to do it. So don't take lack of structure as a barrier. Just make yourself available and convince whoever it is that you're talking to that, yeah, exactly, be bold, that you're actually going to be able to help. And pharma, I think. Like most, I think, most careers, we struggle from being overambitious, and any extra hands that'll help, people are always going to be open for it. So as long as you're available and convincing that you're going to be a bonus rather than detriment to the company, people end up taking a risk.
Yeah, just see, as you're going to Congress and so on, you're going to see new drugs coming up, right? So identify those drugs and, with the company coming up, because usually, let's say if a new drug is coming out, let's say in a year and so on, they're going to be hiring people. Usually they're MSLs and so on, because that's how when they expand the sales force or the medical. So that could be a good opportunity to say, you know what, this company is coming out with this drug next year. Well, there's good chances, that may be a good company for you guys to target. Just keep that in mind.
Hi, Dr. Litvina. It's Sonish. Hi. That's right. So I'm sorry I'm a little late. I just flew down from New Jersey. I'm going to introduce myself right in. So my name is Sonish Azam, and I'm a medical science liaison with Kiva Kiran, which is not a huge company in Canada. So I'm their first hire. I was with Janssen for 5 years, left Johnson & Johnson and joined this company. So I agree with what you're saying. I just wanted to second that. New drug is coming to the market, and when new drug is, that's what we need to look at. There, the whole department will be hired, right? First, they hire the medical science department because only medical science can talk about off-label stuff until the drug is approved or we get an NOC from Health Canada. So once that's approved, then the rest of the department is hired. But that's exactly it. For us, the drug is not approved yet, so I'm here, but we will be expanding next year when CTCL drug is approved. We also have another drug. So sometimes companies merge, and one of the two partners is responsible for the management of certain kind of molecule, but sometimes we get the molecule back. It's always like back and forth. So we're getting another molecule back, and for that, it's already been approved. So a lot of different departments will be hired. So it's going to be 2022. Just to ask, I was a professor at Concordia for 5 years. Anybody from Concordia? No, okay. That's my previous life. But I'll be very happy to talk to you if anybody has any questions regarding how to be an MSL. So that's my career path. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for driving from New Jersey, right? That's quite a...
Just right now.
I mean, just by the environmental scan, just from my knowledge, I mean, there's a lot of companies here who have medications coming. So tralokinumab, right? Mogamulizumab, sorry? Yeah, and it sounds like anything JAK inhibitors, right? I mean, the JAK inhibitors are about to, to hit us like a tsunami, right? JAK inhibitors for everything. So I think, this is the best time, and you have people who are willing to listen to you. That's incredible.
Hi, everyone. So I just have a small question. Usually when we hear about pharma and industry, I feel like a lot of us graduate students, we don't know about all the opportunities that actually exist and the roles that exist. Personally, I do want to pursue medicine, and I want to work in healthcare in the future, but I also want to explore the industry. So I was just wondering if there are roles that are still very close to the patient and healthcare in the pharmaceutical industry.
You couldn't be any more closer to the patient. You're always, the patient is, like people said, it's always, patient is at the forefront of everything we do. Right? Any other comments?
So there are a few different type of job. You heard few of them, in the medical affairs, I think is the one where you are maybe very close to patients. You have marketing, you have clinical trials. So let's say CRAs, the clinical trial managers, these are jobs where you work really with clinical trials only. Are you more in a field working with the individual site? So investigators, we have heard that word as here as well. Sales jobs, and what am I missing? Then there is a lot of support functions, right? So you may have, I don't know, medical education, which is part of medical affairs as well, and I'm probably forgetting tons. Patient advocacy, this is definitely something which is now coming up much more for that. I don't know if there is any specific education required, but definitely coming from a PhD, master's degree is a great combination.
Was it seeing actual live patient, your question, or it was more dealing stuff?
Like the closest to the bench side.
And maybe to add on to that and ask a very deceptively simple question, but what is a medical science liaison? Can you maybe tell us about a day in the life or a week in the life and what sort of things you get to see from what hasn't already been mentioned yet?
I'm not sure what has been mentioned already. Sorry, I joined late, but I can maybe, yeah. So medical science liaison, it's a dream job. That's what I would say. I used to, yeah. I mean, I did a lot of different things in my previous life. So if you like to learn, it's like you're being paid to get educated. You know, sometimes people want to learn all their life. And this is the kind of job you have to be an expert or up to date with a certain, you know, niche or a field. So that you have to be an expert so that you can educate others. So what could be better than that, right? Flexibility is amazing. You can, one day you will be working from home, one day you'll be outside, one day you're meeting Dr. Litvinov for dinner and chatting about stuff. But at the end of the day, you will feel that you're bringing value, you're bringing information to where it's needed, and indirectly or directly, it's going to relate to the patient. It's all about the patient. So if you like science, but you want to be in business, then that's the MSL role. Not selling anything. You are actually in a I would say, and I think everybody would agree with me, it's a proactively reactive role. Is that correct, MSLs? Or reactively proactive, because you create your need and then you're there. Okay? So any specific question that you have about the MSL role? I mean, this is in a nutshell. And I remember when I joined the MSL role, as anybody else, like, unless you are in the role, you actually don't know what exactly it is. So when I joined, I asked my manager, I'm like, what exactly I'll be doing? And he said, I don't know. I'm like, what does that mean? He goes, every territory is different. You cater to the needs of your KOLs or key opinion leaders or your HCPs or your doctors. Some might be interested in ISs, investigator-initiated trials. Some might be interested in connecting with other KOLs, so you help them with that. Some might be interested in different projects they might want to do with you. So every MSL role is different. And it also depends on where the molecule is in its lifetime. You launch a molecule, you cater to the needs of the molecule. Once the molecule is launched, maybe there's an AE, adverse event, that needs attention. So you work on that to eliminate, the confusions there. So everything is different. If you have a specific question, we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, so I would like to add one thing. So definitely you have to have scientific exchanges with the KOLs, but one important thing is to really build a relationship, like trustworthy relationships with KOL. So if you're people-oriented, it's very good. And another thing, like in the day-to-day, you will be organizing events, ad boards, train the trainers. So you are an event organizer, like in some way. You want to make sure you have KOLs attending. You want to make sure the invitations are sent. You could work with an agency or you can do it yourself. So there is this aspect as well that you have to think of. And you want to make successful events.
So the day-to-day work at MSL will change depending on what company you are and depending on where the drug is in its life cycle. So we will do different things if it's a pre-launch or if it's a drug that's getting almost out of the market. So it depends on the life cycle of the drug, what the company requires from you. Some companies would like you to be linked with clinical trials, others not. Others it's more one-on-ones, others it's more giving presentations in front of more people. So there's all kinds of things that you need in your day-to-day that was going to change depending on the company that you're in. So it's hard to say your day-to-day is going to be this and that, but But the definition of an MSL, and people talked about it, or it's pretty much that. But the thing that nobody mentioned yet, and it's to exchange science, but from the company's perspective, the growth rate, I think, of MSL is like 10% a year or something like that in job opportunities, while the sales rep is going down a little. Is that the HCPs at which you're talking to have less and less time to talk to, and they need to talk more to the point to the MSL than to a sales rep. The landscape of industry changes a little bit, and so you need yourself to be credible, worthy of their time. So yeah, you need to read a lot. You need to know your product, the competition. You need to know the science, and you need to be value to your HCPs you're going to talk to. So your day-to-day is to be credible and to know your things. And another thing I wanted to add is the company, what we want basically is to learn information. We call it insights from what's going on in the field that we don't know about. So that's one of the main things that is required of us. It's what's going on. How do the HCPs see certain things that you cannot learn from reading or from trends? It's really information that you're only going to get from HCPs in the field.
So sorry for being late as well. I'm a medical student doing a master's degree at the same time, so it doesn't give me a bunch of time to get involved in your companies. However, I do want to learn more about the industry and maybe get like an internship or whatever. However, I have a conflict with the fact that it is for-profit industry. And some of your companies have had price gouging controversies before. So I was wondering what policies you have implemented to make sure that the patients are the people that you are representing first and not necessarily the company, because that would be something I would like to get involved in. So maybe more of a humanitarian or community-focused project. Maybe it's not the best way to introduce myself with such an ethical question, but sorry.
That's fair. I mean, I guess a lot of practitioners may be asking about how to balance profit and patient care. I don't know if there are any comments. I certainly know that there's a lot of programs to cover patients and provide the drug for free when the coverage is not available. And just about every company has, programs where compassionate care, compassionate access, is plentiful. I don't know if other industry experts have comments about this balance.
I'll just say, a couple of comments here. One, say there needs to be some research done. A lot of those, I think every industry suffers from comments like that or criticisms. I think the important thing is to note, we're a regulated industry. So we're actually quite heavily regulated. When you look at Health Canada, you look at PAB, you also look at IMC, for example. So there's a lot of things that we actually can't do. And some of that stuff, I think, has happened in the past. The industry is changing at a rapid pace. When it comes to humanitarian, every company has a very extensive program. You heard Dr. Littenoff talk about, free drug. It's a lot for a company to actually provide, because what's usually not highlighted in this is actually the risk to the company. So providing drug to a patient for free, if there are any adverse events or something, the company can be on the hook for it. Plus long-term consequences from new therapies. You heard about the JAKs coming in. They're fairly new therapy. Questions about 10 years on a JAK, what does that really mean? Is there going to be consequences? So companies are trying to do their best in terms of bringing therapies that provide a need and address a need from a patient standpoint, while giving practitioners a slew of options to be able to really tailor therapies. And with that, the flip side of the revenue aspect is a lot of the revenue goes into R&D. So you'll find actually from a company standpoint, there's a lot of investment and there's a lot of risk companies are taking. So it is a balance. At the end of the day, it's still a business. But my suggestion is talk to companies, but also do some research, because companies do a lot and they have mission statements. They actually talk a lot about what they do and why they do it. So, and then the other thing also is, if you're interested, at some point you got to take a leap and you'll find out, the other side. Because I had the same aspect when I was in academia. I looked at it saying, wow, it looks like a really rough industry to work in. As soon as I worked there, it was a completely different picture. And that's not always the case. You're always going to have rogue individuals, rogue companies that are pressure or whatever it is that may make you know, I guess decisions with I guess a short term in mind. So I would just say, yeah, a lot of it is just try to understand the industry and understand how broad it is. There are a lot of phenomenal people and a lot of phenomenal companies out there.
Because I am directly sales, but the same as an MSL, I am heavily regulated in what I can and cannot say. I have to be aware of my science. I have to be aware of my drug that I'm promoting. I have to be aware of hers. She's my competitor. I have to keep aware of the disease state, of everything that's happening, and I have to be as ethical and as scientific. The only difference is the only topics I'm allowed to speak about, to exchange with you about, are the ones that are approved by Health Canada.
I would add, in Canada, it's really strict. From a sales point of view, it's the IMC code of Canada. I took about 8 hours training, and it has to be every year. And thank you, Louise. We are competitor direct, but we can sit beside and say bonjour. I'm not allowed to talk of the product monograph, so everything I will talk is everything published at the product monograph. And also, I'm not allowed to do whatever I want because my personality, and I want to be creative. No, I go with my company and with the IMC code of Canada. It's strict, but I can just be myself, and that's the way we do. So for your question, I hope it answers as much as possible. We care, and our mission together is to take care of the patients. We have compassionate PSP program, sport program. We want that what is best for the patient at first. It's patient first, having that in mind and talking with what is indicated, what is the posology, what is in the product monograph, and what is about our company. It's very precious to have that in mind. And every year we have to do our certification. And I say 8 hours, sometimes it might be 10 or 12, but the important is that we follow the guide, and it's have to be PAB approved. A PAB approved is the material we use is also have to be approved, and I'm not the one that approve everything. So
And even in company, you have a lot of compliance trainings. Like every 4 months, you have module on compliance, and they make you learn again and again, or to be sure that you are going to have compliance with a physician. So to be sure that you don't have any issue or any matter that could look bad for yourself, but also for the company.
Quick last comment, maybe Sunish is going to talk, might not be the last one. So I share the same concern as I told before you joined. I said I had my own doubts joining industry, and I agree with you that there were days that pharma was really tainted. There were days that they were paying left and right to physicians, like going to golf clubs and so on and so forth. But those days are gone. They can't do that beep now. So the industry is heavily regulated after all those things. Even I can refer you to Dirty Money series on Netflix if someone is interested. There is one episode on one of the pharma companies and the past history. But those days are gone. Not that it does not happen, but there are many rules and regulations. So Sunish was referring to kind of being proactive, reactive. That's referring to having, for example, MSL being part of the medical team, which means that the MSL teams cannot be actively reaching out and being kind of proactively soliciting. Their role is reactive, only there is a need and whatever. So she was hinting into kind of the fine tuning of how you can be a good MSL or whatever. But that again speaks to the heavy kind of sides of the regulation. But having said that, I don't want to wash my hands off that there is nothing There, as we said, there's business. There's good side of the business. There's bad side of the business. The business means money, and that drives innovation, drives new medication, which means at the end of the day means better treatment for patients. But that competition can be healthy, can be unhealthy, and so on. So, but those days, I can reassure you that it's way gone. It's not that it doesn't happen, but it's way less. It's minuscule compared to what it used to be.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're approaching, oh, go ahead, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for clarifying. That's exactly what I meant. And from an MSL perspective, we are a bit more flexible, they say, because we're medical and we can talk about off-label, but still, I mean, I'm in the launch phase and still we have a SAP program, special access program. Not that we can go to the physician and say, hey, we have this drug, it's not approved, but you can put your patients on that. We are even not allowed to say that. If physicians would approach us, we'll help them if they need to. So there are regulations from that perspective too, absolutely. Pre-launch, launch, post-launch, all the time. Thank you.
We have an online question from a Zoom audience. How repetitive your job is? People feel that in academia, it's full of different things. How are you doing the same thing? Is that a Groundhog Day? How repetitive it is?
I wish it was more repetitive. There is not one day similar to the other one.
Yeah, I think there's some things that you will do over and over, like you will organize events and have to be an event planner, and some of that is repetitive, but it's a fast-paced industry, and there's always new data coming out, even if you work on a product that's maybe later in its product life cycle. We're talking about dermatology. It's so competitive, which other people have been commenting on, meaning your competitors are always going to be having data, or your competitors are always going to be talking about different things with your doctors, and then your doctors will bring it up with you. You might have the same conversation with two different doctors, but you're never going to have the same conversation with the same doctor. So the bureaucratic aspect or the spending lots of time in your car maybe gets a little bit repetitive sometimes, but the actual job in and of itself is new every single day.
Yeah, and I can testify about that as well. It's changing, constantly changing. Another fact is you have deadline. It's like grants. You have to submit really tight deadlines as well, and your role can be important in publication as well. So you can stimulate publication with peers, with collaborators. Everything is declined, everything is transparent, but there's a component of generating data as well. So you follow the science and it's never dull.
And so the sub question is it pre-COVID or post-COVID question? or peri-COVID?
It's post-COVID because
it's post-COVID because we're opening up a little bit.
Yeah,
so no, that's great. So some days you're gonna travel, and I agree with you. It has to be a little repetitive. I would love that. So some days you have to travel. Some days you're home. Some days you are meeting people in your own city. Some days you're doing your expense report. My God, I don't want to do that. Some days you have to read these papers because you're presenting somewhere, and you're meeting market access. You're meeting your sales counterpart, and you're planning your event. Every single day I feel is different. It's very, very, it's not monotonous at all.
So I guess I will turn the table a little bit. I wonder if industry members have any questions for themselves or to participants at all. Nothing?
Well, I have a just broad question, and I think it's of interest to the students here. I mean, with the pandemic, I think our day-to-day has changed a little bit, and some of what happened will stay. I just wanted to have the opinion of the different panelists here, what they think the pandemic will have changed for their jobs, and if those changes will remain in the future.
I think our meetings are hybrid now, and they're gonna stay hybrid. So just to give you a little example, I was in New Jersey. This was our first meeting at the head office, in-person meeting. We're hugging each other, everybody's vaccinated. The second day somebody got sick, and the meeting turned virtual until the person was tested negative. We were all quarantined in our hotels. And then I felt like I was released from the jail. in the evening. So I think this is gonna stay, the hybrid meeting. Are you in the same boat, I'm sure?
No, I agree, because I heard earlier, I don't know from who,
Yeah.
that, you travel all the time, and I think you'll still have to travel, but I think it's gonna be less a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is what the HCPs would like too. I mean, some of them love the virtual meetings. So I think we'll need to adapt to the desire of our, HCP's counterpart.
I think it's also really dependent on like the HCP that you're talking about. So I met with one yesterday who was like, I am not doing virtual clinics anymore. I'm only seeing patients in person, and I am sick and tired of Zoom. If you ask me to go on one more Zoom, I'm gonna pull all my hair out and I'm never gonna talk to you again. Like it really depends. So I think there's truly, after 2 years being locked in our homes, there is an appetite to be together and be in a room together. So I think it's really going to come down to individual preferences, because virtual does allow greater accessibility. If we think about young parents who may also be physicians, they're not going to travel to international congresses. And in the past, they would always sit those out. Well, now they can do them. So I think it has to be both, and it's going to be the preference of, the stakeholders there. And from my perspective, previous to the pandemic, Novartis, my job would be head office, and they would have required me to relocate to Montreal, or I would not have gotten my position. And now, because of the pandemic and everybody's so comfortable with remote working, I did not have to relocate from Toronto to get my new job. And so I really hope that sort of flexibility and understanding remains post-pandemic, because, well, it better, or else I'm in trouble.
I have a question for the attendees or our colleagues here. So show of hands, we've heard that few of you wants to be an MD moving towards this career. How many do you want to? Okay, we have few. Okay, interesting. Congratulations. Who wants to own their own lab? Who wants to be a researcher, continue in this science? Amazing. Okay, congrats, guys. This is amazing. And who would want to enter into the industry? Okay, so so the science still is winning. So amazing. All right, thank you.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for the time, and we have 20 minutes, so I want to give this time for people to interact, to ask questions. So the session is off. Thank you so much. Was this useful to you? Was this interesting? I think part of it is just seeing each other and having this conversation. I think usually it's like the giver also receives, right, in some way. So listen, from the bottom of our hearts, from my heart, thank you so much for your sponsorship of this event. It would not be possible. You're stimulating young minds in skin research. And thank you so much for coming, giving us your valuable time to share your expertise. And I'll leave this as a free time for you guys to interact. Thank you.